had some production issues that have since been sorted out. So we're restarting from the top. We're going right back to square one. This week, we are talking about building a bulletproof regime. And if you haven't noticed yet, we are doing a solo episode this week because Jack is otherwise preoccupied. So I'm taking the wheel and we're going about it solo this week. So since we've got no banter to hit up this week, we're just going to jump right in and we're hitting the ground running. So this week, again, we're talking about bulletproof regimes. We're talking about how to put that together for each person because it is, in fact, very different depending on a person's individual life circumstances. And we'll get into some examples of that shortly. Um, the reason that it's important to carefully build this regime, to carefully build this plan for yourself, is because, like I said, everybody's lifestyle is different, right? The first thing that we really need to hunker down and consider is this one fact that really doesn't get talked about very much. And that is that, quite frankly, at the end of the day, uh, setting out on a new health and fitness journey, it requires sacrifice. There are things that need to be given up so that we can make space for this new goal that we're taking on for this health and fitness goal. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to give everything up in your life. You don't necessarily have to completely shun everybody in your life. You don't have to burn your fridge down and start over in order to make good progress. There are much more reasonable things that you can do in order to get this done, right? At the end of the day, though, what you really have to understand is that there are 24 hours in a day, right? And this isn't that part of the speech, that this isn't that part of the trainer spiel where I go, look, we all have 24 hours in the day. If you want it bad enough, you'll just make it happen. To a point, yes, but that's not where I'm going because not everybody's 24 hours are the same. If you're somebody that has kids, for example, which is my favorite example of this, then automatically those 24 hours don't all belong to you. As a matter of fact, very few of those 24 hours belong to you once you start bringing kids into the mix, and that's just a fact of life. So a parent's 24 hours, especially a new parent's 24 hours, are very, very different than somebody that doesn't have kids or somebody that's got kids that are old enough that they've moved on and they've moved out of the house. But but at the end of the day, there are still a lot of hours in the day and a lot of hours in the week. And I want to show you exactly how this works number wise, right? So, first thing I'm going to show you is we're going to figure out how many hours there are in a week, right? So, 24 hours in a day. I've got my calculator already up and handy, times 7 days in a week. That gives us 168 hours in a week, right? So, we've all got the same 168 hours in a week. Again, exceptions for parents and all that. We'll get there. Don't worry. And don't worry, I recognize that this is 168 hours for all 24 hours. And right off the top, what we're going to do, we're going to slice off time for sleep because I'm in no way, shape, or form ever going to advocate for cutting sleep or sacrificing that in any way just to make this goal happen. So I'll say 8 hours per night. That's the number that they say we should all sleep, that they say we should all aim for. Not a lot of us get it. I'm usually at 6.5 myself, but I'll just go with 8 just to help with the point. So 8 times 7 is 56. So we take the 56 from our 168 minus 56 hours, and that leaves us 112 hours. Now, most people have a job, and that job is typically 40 hours a week. Yes, there are exceptions. I'm not going to get into those right now because these still, to a degree, this point is still going to apply when we get there, right? So save me the stories about your 60, 80-hour work weeks. There are ways to make that work too. There's this will come back. But for tradition's sake, right? 40 hours a week, add in some time for commuting, so we'll call it 45 hours. So we take that 45 away from our remainder, so minus 45, and that brings us 67 hours that we have for the rest of the week. Now, that 67 hours includes time with family, it includes time with friends, it includes time watching sports, going to movies, all that extracurricular stuff, right? That all comes into the 67 hours. That basically comes up to more than 9 hours a day at this point that you have left over. So 9 hours a day, 9 hours. Keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about what we need to take away, what we need to sacrifice time-wise for a solid, sustainable gym regimen, right? Now, I'm not going to tell you go to the gym every day. I'm not going to tell you to go 6 days a week. I'm not even going to tell you to go 5 days a week. If you want to, cool. I get it. I get wanting to go 5 days and just tacking it onto your work schedule. By all means, do it. If it's going to help with your consistency, knock it out. Like, go for it. But I'm also here to tell you, you don't have to go all 5 of those days. So if you find yourself scraping for time, 2 of those days you don't even really need to go. You can just go 3 times a week, right? Two, you can still go 2 times a week and get really good results if your program is on point. We'll talk about that in our last section. But let's just assume 3 days a week is what we're gonna do because that's average, what I suggest to people. 3 times a week. How long each time? I'm not gonna tell you it's 3 hours. I'm not gonna tell you it's 2 hours because I'm not going to the gym for 3 hours and I'm not going for 2 hours. Usually for me, once it hits like that 60-minute mark, I'm already like, all right, I'm getting done. I'm getting to the point of wanting to get out of here. But for realistic sake, it's usually going to take between 30 and 60 minutes, again, depending on how it's programmed, for you to get a good quality session in. So 30 to 60 minutes, 3 times a week is all it needs. So let's go high end, right? Normally I would say let's meet in the middle, but let's go high end just so you can see sort of the high end of the amount of time you'd have to sacrifice. So 3 hours, right? So we left at 67 hours before we came into this. So now we're going to take away 3 hours. That still leaves us 64 hours for the week. That's still more than 7 hours, I think. More than 8 hours. Now, that's one part of the puzzle, right? When it comes to fitness, because yes, there's time for the gym. There also needs to be time for food. There also needs to be time for meal prepping and clean up and prep for all of that, right? Some people try to say that there needs to be time for shopping. I don't like giving people time for shopping because you're already shopping. You're already there. You're already at the grocery store once a week or once every 2 weeks. You just need to make some different changes when you're there already. So that's already factored in, right? But you know what? Just for the sake of it, let's just say you want to add in and cut out shopping time because you don't really want it to be part of your overall time. So you want to dedicate it. Let's say an hour, right? Minus an hour, 63 hours. Now, when we talk about time for meal prep, right? People come up with these recipes and they take like 2, 3 hours. You already see where I'm going with this, right? They take like 2, 3 hours to prep. I don't got time for that. Some people do. I promise you, most people that have busy work schedules or kids or that do things on Sundays that don't involve just getting ready for the week, they don't want to spend 2, 3 hours cooking food. That's going to be something that ends up with people falling off because it's just a lot of time. If you work on keeping your recipes simple and you just do stuff that like you have to bake. What I do on Sundays is I grab 3 pounds of chicken tenders and I put them on a cookie sheet and I bake it in the oven for 20 minutes. Done. That's it. That's my meal prep. I come out, I put a little bit of sauce on it. Yes, I weigh it and I track it, and I'll tell you exactly how that works in our second section. But that's it. Like my total meal prep time per week is like 45 minutes, dude. So and I don't do most of the work. The oven does it for me. All I do is I put it on the sheet, put it in, take it out, put it in the containers, done. Easy. Clean everything up, solid. So if you really get down and dirty, you make your meals simple but still tasty, and there are ways to do that, obviously. I'm not telling you to have boiled chicken and unflavored rice. I don't, so I'm not going to tell you to do it either. Let's say an hour for prepping the food, cooking the food, and cleaning everything up. So that comes down again, one more hour down, 62 hours for the week. Now, that's 62 hours that you can spend all week for all things not related to exercise, not related to cooking. So that's for family time, that's friend time, that's everything else. So we take that, divide that by 7. and we are left with roughly 8.9 hours, almost 9 hours per day. Still 9 hours a day. So what do you mean you don't have time? I just showed you have 9 hours a day on average. Obviously, the workout days you're going to have less time, but it makes up on the non-workout days, and you end up with more time there. So what do you mean you don't have time? The question is, it's not how many hours you have. The real question is, what are you doing in those hours you do have? How much of that time are you spending on social media? How much of that time are you spending scrolling on Facebook? And yes, I realize the irony of talking about scrolling on Facebook while this video is on Facebook, it's on YouTube. I understand that. But here's the hack. You could be at the gym right now while you're watching this. You could be prepping food right now while you're watching this. You could have this on in the background while you're doing something else. So, is this really that much of a hindrance? So, really at the end of the day, it's a question of sacrifice, right? What do you need to give up? And no, time with kids is never going to be it really should never be an option. Um, but if you're a football fan and you watch your Monday night football, your Sunday night football, your Thursday night football, guess what? Some of those games, you can probably just get the scores afterwards. Or you can have the football game on while you're meal prepping. You can have the football game on while you're at the gym because you've got a rest timer, hopefully, that will just go off and tell you when it's time to go to your next set. So you're still double dipping anyway. So you can really still get the job done. And you can take a friend with you that you would watch the football game with, take them with you to the gym, and then you can both watch the game while you lift. Done. What are we talking about here? So think about that. Think about, right, 9 hours per day on average. What are you spending those hours on? And if you're not going with any of the if you're not going to the gym or anything right now, you have more than 9 hours. What are you spending that time on? Just food for thought. Speaking of food, let's go to our second section. Let's talk about nutrition, right? So we're going to spend a lot of time here because nutrition is going to sit right in the middle of everything of our health and fitness triangle, right? You've got our sacrifice, you've got the workouts, which will be coming to in our third section. Smack dab here in the middle, we've got nutrition. And the reason we're going to spend a lot of time here is because, quite frankly, if you don't have this dialed in, it doesn't matter if you have the perfect workout plan. It doesn't matter if you are sacrificing every single minute to go to the gym. It doesn't matter if you're taking the right supplements. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If your nutrition's not dialed, it's all wasted. It really is. If you're trying to lose weight and you're not monitoring and managing your food intake, your calories, you're not getting anywhere. You're really not. It is where the idea of right fad diets come in. And everybody wants to know which one works, which ones don't work so that they can avoid them, and they want to know which ones work so that they can do them. And the simple answer is they all work. They all can work because they all work on a similar underlying philosophy, which is just basic calorie deficit. Simply put, that is uh, consuming fewer calories than your body needs. So if your body needs 2,000 calories a day, you eat 1,700 calories, you're now in a 300 calorie deficit, and that's all it is. That's how you get to a calorie deficit. Now, a good way to think about this is picture an ice cream store. Picture a Baskin Robbins, right? 31 flavors. Rip down the Baskin Robbins sign, put up a sign that now says calorie deficit. That's basically what we're doing. So when you walk into the calorie deficit ice cream store, now you can choose keto, you can choose carnivore, you can choose if it fits your macros, you can choose intermittent fasting, you can choose Atkins, you can choose vegetarianism, veganism, all the flavors that go into that. And that's basically what we're talking about here. So they all work because they're all calorie deficits, but they all only work if you apply them properly. And the way that you apply them properly is the short version is a lot of those diets work because they force you into a calorie deficit, right? If we take something like keto, for example, it basically removes all carbs from the table. Well, most of the foods that we eat that tend to have a lot of calories tend to have a lot of carbs. They also have a lot of fat, a lot of salt in them as well. That's a story for another day. But when you get rid of carbs, you get rid of foods that have a lot of calories. Thus, you are now in a calorie deficit. That's all there is to it. It's not magic. It doesn't break the laws of physics. That's just how it works. Carnivore does the same thing. Gets rid of all the carbs food, all the carb foods, right? Atkins, same thing. You just get rid of high calorie foods. Naturally, you will be in a deficit and you will lose weight. But there's a way that you can still have carbs, you can still have your breads, you can still have donuts, you can still have, if you've ever seen me at a Duke City wrestling show, you can still have pizza and still maintain your goals. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So if you go on the Google machine and you type in calorie calculator, you'll get this list of calculators, and they're all pretty accurate, right? They're all as accurate as what I'm going to actually show you. But they ask you for a bunch of info. They ask for your gender, they ask for your height, your weight, your age, your activity level, and if you go, some of them ask you how many times you go to the gym, and they factor that in. And they all basically operate on one of two different formulas that are out there that are accepted as the standards for calorie calculation. And you can go use those. That's fine. Like I just told you, go to Google, type in calorie calculator, you'll find it. I have a free one. If you want, I'll give you the link to mine. You don't have to sign up for anything to get there. It's just 100% free. And it works a lot of the same way, right? But there's an easier way, and it basically just uses a coefficient. So if you were terrible at math, all that means is it just takes one number and it multiplies it by another, and that's it. And the one number that you use is your current body weight. So effectively, what you do is you take your body weight, you multiply it by what I recommend for most people is 12. So you take your body weight, multiply it by 12. The calculator will spit back a number. That's your starting calories. So let's plug in some numbers. So right now I'm at 188 pounds. So I hit divide. Boom. 188 times 12. So that's my current body weight multiplied by 12 because that's the pattern that I've seen from all the calculators and all the numbers that I've ever run in my years of coaching and helping people. That comes up to 2256. So theoretically, that would be my calories in order for me right now to lose weight, which is what I'm trying to do. And right now, like I said, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to lose about a pound a week. The reason that I like tracking, the reason I like playing into the math and doing the calories in the macro game is because it is predictable. Once you get some practice and once you dial your numbers in, you can reliably say, I would like to lose a pound of this week, a pound of weight this week. This is how many calories I need in order to do that. Would you like to know how many calories I've had on average for the past 7 days? I just did a check-in this morning in order to lose 1 pound of weight. It was 2,250 on average. So it's 6 calories off from that calculation. It's really it like that's it. Done. So it works. Now, the other piece of the puzzle is I have also committed to a 10,000 per day step goal. You don't need to do that. I'm not telling you go do 10,000 steps. However, I will challenge you to look at what your current steps are right now per day. If you've got a smartphone, it's tracking it. Apple Health is doing it. Samsung Health is doing it. You can just look. It's going to give you a number. If it says, right, 3,000, you don't have to jump all the way up to 10. Just, I would challenge you to add 1 to 2,000 steps a day. So if it says 3, go up to 4 to 5,000 steps per day and work on that and work on staying consistent there. Regardless if it's a work day or non-work day, just take the family for a walk, 5,000 steps, right? And just work on getting consistent there every day. When you can be consistent there, you now remove a variable because you've made it constant, where you know I'm always getting that activity every day. Before I committed to this step goal, I would get usually about 7, 8,000 a day at work. And then on the weekends, I would barely move because I would ride a motorcycle. So I'm sitting on the bike all day. So I'm maybe getting 2,000 steps on those days, maybe 2,500 if I happen to go on a little bit of a hike when I get up into the mountains on the motorcycle. Whereas now, even if I go to the motorcycle, I still come back down the mountain and I still go out on a walk and I get my 10,000 steps a day. So now my activity level is very flatlined, whether it's a work day or not. So there are a couple ways you can do it. One, you can bring your steps up, or two, you can lower that coefficient number that you multiply your body weight. by. So if we then plug my number in, my weight, 188, multiply it by 10, which is the lowest I would ever suggest for a person, by the way. So really it's like 10 to 12 is your range. That would put me at 1,880 calories. Quite frankly, I don't want to eat that small amount of food. And so again, sacrifice, right? I don't want to eat that small amount of food. Therefore, my step count, my general activity level has to go up to match. So you can do one or the other. You can either go really low on calories, which some people can. And if I was really forced to, I would just make it happen. I just don't want to. That's all. Uh, so I'm making up for it by going up in steps. So there you go. Take your body weight, multiply by 10 to 12. If you are new to the tracking game, what you will need to do, because this is going to be your starting number, is you're going to need to take these numbers and be consistent with it for like 2 to 3 weeks. And you have to weigh yourself very regularly. I recommend daily because when you weigh yourself daily, you can take that week average, compare it to the next week average and the next week average, and see the overall trend and not get worried about like spikes and everything. It kind of the daily weighing buffers those spikes out of the equation. And you can see if you're losing weight at a good rate, which by the way, a good rate is anywhere between 1 and on the high end, 2.5 pounds a week. If you're anywhere in that range, actually a half pound to 2.5 pounds a week. If you're in that range, you're aces. You can play in that range, right? If you want a bigger drop per week, you just go with a bigger deficit. If you want more calories, just know that rate is going to be a little closer to the point 0.5 side, which is fine. These are all just trade-offs that we make with the choices that we make for our calories and our macros and all that. Um, so that's calories. Next thing you want to figure out is protein, because protein is out of the three that we're going to talk about, the most important when it comes to losing fat, losing weight, and reshaping your body, because it's directly responsible for building muscle as and maintaining muscle as you lose weight, which is much more the game. And people want to know, right, how much protein do I have? And most people actually have very similar advice points for this, and it's very, very easy too. So what you would do is, right, you would take my weight again, 188, and you would multiply it by you'd multiply it by 1. That's it. Multiply by 1, which is 188. That's your target area for your protein. So try not to think of it as like a pinpoint. Like you don't have to hit specifically 188. There's a fair amount of wiggle room on that. You can go all the way down as low as realistically 150 would be like my floor. So really you could go to like zero point 0.8 all the way up to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. So it'd be 150. And for me at the high end, it would be, I went the wrong way again, times 1.2 would be 225. So 150 to 225. That's a pretty big range. Now, I like erring on the higher side, because when you err on the higher side for protein, things like muscle soreness are very diminished. They don't hit you near as hard. It generally helps you feel better. It helps you feel a little fuller longer, and it's generally more helpful all around. So again, meet you in the middle, just 1 to 1. Take your current body weight, or you can take your goal weight too. So you can go either way. So if you have a goal weight in mind, take that, drop the LB off, replace it with a G. That's your protein target as you move forward. So work on getting yourself up to that number, because if you're like most people, you're way under that. You just don't know because you weren't tracking it, you weren't paying attention to it. Um, Really, it's just a matter of sitting down, taking an honest inventory of the food you're eating, the amounts, the types, and logging it accurately with a food scale, with a digital food scale, and objectively looking at it and realizing that you're not bad if you're making these wrong choices, which there aren't any. Um, but understand that when you can look at that information clearly, now you can understand, and now you can make changes to that information that are going to point you in the direction that you want of your goals. So the other real big hack is, a lot of people fight me on this, and all the people that fight me on this tend to struggle with their nutrition, so I don't really listen to them. Eat the same foods every day. I don't care. Like, we're trying to make this simple, right? Like, The whole idea is to make this simple. Eat the same foods every day. Find the foods that you enjoy, that you like, so you're not eating bland chicken and rice every single day because that will get old very fast. Unless you're super militant, some people can pull it off. My guy Gabe can pull it off. So hats off, respect to him. Again, if I really needed to, I would, but I don't need to because I'm a G when it comes to tracking. So it's just, I just track and I'm good to go. But just find the foods that you like, eat the same ones every day. Like it doesn't like I don't care. You want to have your foods, you want to have different foods every day, fine, go at it. But when you come back later talking about it's hard to track, it's like, well, it's hard to track because you're making it hard to track. You could make it easy by having the same foods because then you literally go into Chronometer and you just copy paste day to day. It's like mind blowing how it takes 4 seconds to just copy your meal log from one day to the next if you eat all the same foods. And then now you get rid of that argument that people have of like, oh, tracking takes too long. Really? 4 seconds is too long? I get it. It cuts one reel out of your Instagram time, but you can make time for 4 seconds to copy paste. So like this is literally what I eat most days, and there's two versions depending on whether or not I go to the gym. So I'm gonna go from the end of the day up because the that first meal is what changes based off of the gym, off of whether or not I'm lifting weights. So my last meal of the day is 4 eggs. I scramble them. It's a bowl of cereal because I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and then it's a cup of Greek yogurt. My lunch is 12 pounds of lean ground beef, 93.7 with some flavored rice, and it just depends on whatever I see at the grocery store that grabs my interest. I just grab whatever like flavored like the minute rice. I don't even have to spend time cooking it. Just throw it in the microwave for a minute. Done. And then I've been throwing sauce on the meat. So I've been getting sauce, the Panda Express sauces at the grocery store, and I just measure out a serving of like their orange sauce or their sweet chili sauce, and there's flavor for the meat. When it comes time to lunch, I heat everything up and I just throw it all together and it tastes fantastic. Now, my breakfast is what changes a little bit, and there's only one thing that's different about it. But the two things that are constant is I have a bagel, I have a cinnamon raisin bagel because I'm just trying to get those carbs in after a workout. I have another cup of Greek yogurt to top off the protein even more. And then I have if it's a workout day, I have this first form protein powder. I'll have 2 scoops of that. Because my tag team partner's 2 scoops. We just won the tag team titles. Um, but really that's not why. It's just because it gets 40 grams of protein there. And I like loading that first meal of the day up with protein because it removes the burden from the rest of the day. If it's a not lifting day, I'll have one of these guys. These little Premier Proteins. Let's see if we can get the glare out of the way so you guys can see it. Yeah, I have these on my non-lifting mornings, and I still have it with the bagel, and I still have it with the yogurt. This is 30 grams of protein. Those 2 scoops are 40, so it's a 10-gram shift, and I make up for it later on in the day. But that's it. I have those every day-ish, right? Because that protein changes a little bit in the morning, but I cycle between those two. That's it. That's all I do. On the weekends, I'll switch the bagel out for a blueberry muffin because I go to one of my favorite coffee spots on the motorcycle, and I'll still have this in the morning on those weekend days. I'll still have this. I'll still have the yogurt, and then when I go to the coffee shop, I get an Americano black, and I have it with the blueberry muffin. It's roughly the same amount of calories. It's a tad bit higher in the muffin, but again, the average is inconsequential when you break up the amount of calories, right? And that's it. Everything tastes good. It's stuff that I like and I've been eating that way for years at this point. I have different foods, sure, if it's like a wrestling show or if I'm on the road, things change a little bit. But because I've gotten so good at tracking those meals every day, and even though I could copy paste it, I still have to measure. So I still have to weigh everything on those days. And that's what's gotten me really good is the practice and reps for that. And so like it's not even a thought for me, the meals on those 5 days, Monday through Friday, lock. Like when we get done here, going downstairs, eggs, cereal, yogurt, done. And right, I have scrambled eggs because that's how I like my eggs. I have cinnamon toast crunch because that's my favorite cereal. And the yogurt is delicious, and it's just a way to cap off the protein even more. That's it. Find foods you like. Don't listen to these fuck faces that say you have to have boiled chicken or unflavored tilapia or ground beef with no seasoning and no sauce. Like they're wrong. No, season it up, Add sauce, make it taste good, track the things that you're using to make it taste good, and make it fit into your macros. The cool thing about macros is when you take your calories, right? Let's go back to my calories. 2250, right? And right now I'm at let's say I'm at 200 grams. I'm at a little bit more. You know what? We'll make it as accurate as possible because I have a calculator, so we can do complicated math. So right now I'm at 220 grams of protein a day, right? Again, I'm on that higher side. Multiply that by four because it's four calories per gram of protein. Um, and when you subtract that, that comes out to 880. That leaves me with 1,370 calories for the rest of the day. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here. Those almost 1,400 calories can come from absolutely anything else. It can come from rice, it can come from potatoes, it can come from gummy bears, it can come from ice cream, it can come from muffins, it can come from bagels, it can come from anywhere because at the end of the day, those are just more calories to get you in that target range for your calorie deficit. Now, keep in mind, some of those food choices have some other effects, like things like gummy bears might have you feeling hungrier sooner than something like a bagel. So that's something to keep in mind. But what we're seeing now, we as in the fitness industry, the nutrition industry, is if you have meals with protein, and especially if you have the protein first, it nullifies that effect. So if you can legitimately just take some gummy bears, throw it in a cup of that Greek yogurt, mix it up, boom. And now one, you have a great treat. If you like a little bit more texture in your yogurt, I just solved that for you. You can put granola in the yogurt. One of my clients does that because that's the way she likes her yogurt. So fantastic. And it gets her to have the yogurt. So I'm aces on that. Again, just fit it into your overall calories, into your macros, and you are good. It doesn't matter. Keep it simple. Don't worry about organic this. Don't worry about the color of the packaging. Don't worry about any of that shit. That can come later if you want. Like again, I'm still eating cereal. And people, there's no shortage of coaches that say that cereal is bad. And I'm like, okay, but you're fighting with the same 10 pounds and I'm here rocking and rolling like clockwork. So who's got the problem here? Because it ain't me with my cereal. Leave me alone. Um, yeah, when it comes to nutrition, right? Monitor your weight for those couple weeks. Monitor your performance, how tired you feel, all that stuff. Those are signs that you might be too low, so bring it up. Um, if your scale's not budging at all, you might want to budge your calories back down a touch just to get them in that range. But at the end of the day, those are the two numbers you have to worry about. Calories, body weight times 12, times 10 if you don't want to bump up your steps. And protein, just take your weight, drop the LB, slap a G on there, aim for those two numbers, make it consistent every day. Use foods that you love to get there and make it work, and you are off to the races. That's it. Those are the only two things you need to worry about for your nutrition. Overall calories, protein. That's it. That's that's it. That's it. Okay. Now, let's go to our third part of our triangle. We're going to talk about exercise now. Exercise, of course, matters. It's super useful. People always try to find the right workout or the right exercises that's going to help them lose weight. And let's take a second and let's talk about that. Let's talk about the exercises, the best workouts that's going to help you lose weight. Really, at the end of the day, it doesn't exist. There's no exercise that will directly help you lose weight because that's not what exercise is for. If you want to lose weight, go back up to the second section. It just comes down to calorie management. That's it. That's how you lose weight. You lose weight by sets of fork put downs on the plate. Like put the fork down, and the other exercise is sets of plate pushes where you push the plate away before you finish that fourth plate in a row. Those are your two exercises. When it comes to exercise in the traditional sense, it has typically two major roles. One is improving heart health, two is improving muscle strength and muscle health. And those are really the two big things that you can get out of that. Now, when we're looking at it in the context of losing weight, losing fat primarily, exercise also plays a role in making sure that we maintain muscle. And that is super useful because that can help reshape your body and even as you're losing weight, and you might find that you don't want to lose as much weight as you originally thought, because as you keep that muscle, you might start liking the shape that your body takes. That is dependent on every person, but in my experience, a lot of people have a goal weight in mind, and as they make their way down there, again, if they track it, if they as they make their way down there as planned, they'll get to a number that's before that. And because they've been keeping muscle, they're like, actually, I kind of like the way I look here. I know I'm not at my number, but I like the way I look here. Can I change my goal now? And the answer is yes. You can change your goal at any time. In addition to that, there's all this information now, and I'm a firm believer that exercise also helps with mental health. When I was dealing with all my mental health stuff with bipolar and with depression, especially around like 2018, 19, 20, when it really came to a head. Um, Strength training, barbell lifts were the things that really pulled me out of it, that really got me to get my head back on straight in like 2019, 2020 when I really figured it out. And then of course 2020 happened, the world shut down, and that's a story, that's a story for another day. Not for why the world shut down, but what that did to my mental health as I was starting to figure everything out. But it's regular physical exercise is great for physical health. It's great for mental health. Short version, there it is, done. The main thing you want to focus on when it comes to exercise, and this is my opinion, this is also what I've seen across the board with anybody that I've worked with. Other people will have other opinions of it, and that's fine. I think mine is right because it has the most benefit. We're going to talk about why. Other people may disagree, and they're not necessarily right, and I'm not necessarily wrong, and they're not wrong, and I'm not right. We just have different approaches. You're right. We're just looking at different points, but they're all again Baskin Robbins. You go in now instead of all the diets, it's all the different workout styles, right? Boom. Just wrap it up in that same frame. I like focusing on hypertrophy. I like which is a fancy way of saying building muscle and strength. I like focusing on that with all of my workouts. It's what all of my clients do right now, and they all love it. The reason that I like focusing on building muscle is not just for the physical look. It's not just making people look jacked. It's not making people look great in their clothes, although that stuff does happen. It's not even about getting people out of chronic pain, which also happens, by the way. Um, but it's about that's kind of like a secondary benefit, though. Like this, the physical stuff is like third, fourth level down. Like, yeah, it'll happen. But top reason, aside from mental health improvements, is it helps your metabolism overall. Like everybody wants to make their metabolism better. They want to speed it up, right? Well, the best way to do that is to build muscle because what many people may not know is we know that the body stores energy and body fat. We know that when we have a lot of extra food, it goes into the body fat, and that's how our waistlines gradually expand. And that's one way, sure. There's two other places that our body stores energy and it stores sugar. One is in our liver, which that generally doesn't change a whole lot, but it also stores it in our muscle. And if we are strength training, our body will store that sugar in our muscle first and then go to fat when there's anything left over. Which, by the way, if you're in a steady calorie deficit and it's a real calorie deficit, there will never be anything left over to make it to the fat. And that's how it starts cutting into the fat to use that for that energy gap. So that's how calorie deficits really work. When you build muscle, when you add more muscle tissue, you increase your body's ability to store energy and store sugar and water in that new muscle tissue. So that's how it can change the shape of your body. And as that starts to happen over time, that's how your clothes can start fitting differently, even though the scale may not move. So the scale may stay the same. It may stay stuck at, 190 pounds for weeks on end, but your belt's coming in more and more every week, or your pants are getting looser, or your shirts are getting tighter in the shoulders, looser in the gut. This can all happen while the scale doesn't change. So that's why you want to monitor that as well as the weight. You want to monitor how you feel. You want to monitor the scale. You want to monitor how your clothes fit because these all play into each other for how well things are going. Um, but there's a way to do it. There's a way to do muscle building and strength training that I believe is best. And from what I've seen so far, seems to be the right way to do things. And the reason that I'm saying that is because this style has been helping people get away from pain. I've got a client that when he started with me, his shoulder was just in constant pain and it was getting in the way of his bench pressing. He's been with me a month and a half at this point since we're at January 9th, and his shoulder pain is not gone, but it is a lot better than it has been in a long time. And it's progressively getting better every time, every week. Every time he goes back to the same exercises, shoulder's a little bit stronger. One, so there's that. Two, it doesn't focus on making you as sore as possible and it doesn't drain your energy in the gym. So that's two and three. So a lot of people go to the gym, they want to come out wiped out. A lot of people don't want to come out wiped out. A lot of people, when they have thoughts of going to the gym and getting wiped out, it makes them not want to go to the gym. When you do strength training properly, it should energize you. So you should ideally leave the gym feeling more energized than you were when you walked in. And proper strength training can do that. And there's lots of different ways to do it too. There's not just the way I'm about to lay out for you in a couple minutes. There are other ways to do it too. Um, and typically it's the way I like setting up these programs, and this is the way that I do it now for all my clients. We just do full body workouts 3 times a week. We don't do what's called bro splits, where you have a chest day, a back day, a shoulder day, an arm day, and a leg day. One right away, that's 5 days. A lot of people don't have time to go to the gym 5 days a week, so I don't even make that an option. Um, 3 days a week is better. One, it's full body. Two, if life gets super busy one week for whatever reason, you can now move those workouts around without feeling like you're missing something, without feeling like, oh no, you missed a back day. Now you feel like your body's going to be out of balance, right? You don't have to worry about that anymore. You just take your Monday workout, you move it to Tuesday or you move it to Sunday because you have your kid's piano recital that popped up on a Monday night. Super easy to do, super flexible, right? And within those full body workouts, what I have come to like doing, and this is coming from somebody that was married to barbells, like barbells were my jam. I was squatting, I was deadlifting, I was bench pressing, I was overhead pressing. Like those were staples of my workout for 98% of my time in the gym, really up until the past year or so when I started playing around with what I'm about to lay out to you. And what I do now and how I structure everything for all of my clients is again 3 times a week, full body, maximum flexibility there, right? But within those workouts, they're usually about 45 to 60 minutes. So again, go right back to that time math we did earlier. So now it's 3 hours a week. That's all. That's all. That's like 1% of your week. Oh yeah, we've got a calculator. So 3 hours out of the 168 in a week, that's 1.8% of your week. So the next time you think that you have that voice that comes up that says you don't have time to lift, you don't have time to go to the gym, I'm talking about 1.8% of your week. 1.8. Cool. We're good there? Awesome. So within these workouts, what I like to do is I like to focus on machine work with everybody. One, it's typically a lot safer because your body's a lot more stable. Um, and as a result of your body being more stable, you can focus more on the movement and less on keeping your body stable, less on keeping your body balanced. Even though those have value too, and I still sprinkle those types of movements in. There's usually one or two of those per workout where there's still something that's getting done usually towards the end of the workout where you still have to work to keep the body balanced and stable because that's an important skill to have too. But the bulk of the workouts are machine based or dumbbell based or cable based because they're all very stable so that you can focus more on actually activating and using the muscle. And so, as an example, I went ahead and I just wrote down just a sample workout. So, this is something that I have my clients doing right now. This is what they do every Monday or Monday-ish, right? Because again, you can move them around. But they start off with a machine shoulder press. So still shoulder press, but it's machine based. Typically, you're sitting and you're leaning back a little bit, pushing up. From there, they go to a wide grip lat pull down. So again, seated, pulling the bar down. Then they do a machine dip. So again, dip, pushing your arms down, but with a machine. So typically, you're going to be seated. From there, you go to a cable attachment with a rope attachment, and you do hammer curls. So you're standing on these, so you're challenging that stability and balance there. Then you go to a 45-degree back extension to start putting in some work on the lower body. And then at the end, you wrap up with a single leg extension. And that's it. 6 exercises. Typically, everybody's doing 2 warm-up sets and then 1 or 2 actual hard working sets. So that's it. It's not 10 sets of 500 whatevers. Usually it's 5 to 8 reps. So very low reps, low sets. The kicker here is that the intensity is high. So you're usually pushing very close to failure. And as you push very close to failure, that's where you find the magic, the secret sauce when it comes to hypertrophy training. And that's going to be for another episode because there's a lot of nuance within that. And it's just there's so much to unpack there that's just going to be another episode. But since I just kind of opened that box now, maybe that'll be next week or the week after. So make sure you come back for one of those. It'll be announced, so just keep your eye out for that announcement. Um, the reason that I focus this way, the reason that I push everybody close to failure, the reason that we do only sets of 5 to 8, the reason we only do 1 to 2 sets, um, is because Mikey said he heard that I made a visit to Choose Fitness. I almost exclusively go to Choose Fitness because they have all the machines that I like, dude. They make these workouts possible. Um, and I go to Colorado a lot for wrestling. I go to Denver a lot, and Denver has 7 chooses, I think, if not more. So like I can go there, get the same movements if I happen to be traveling up on a Friday, which happens a lot. I can go there, hit it on Friday, or if Friday's too busy, I can move that workout to the Saturday the next day and just do it there. So, it's important to find a gym that maxes out that if you travel a lot, you can visit no matter where you go, right? Planet Fitness is great for this. I know they come under a lot of heat because of some of their older policies. Um, but like Planet Fitness is great. Anytime Fitness, 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness, got locations across the country. Yes, 7, like tons. They have no shortage of choose gyms out there. We've got 3 in Albuquerque. Um, but anyway, back on point. The reason that I focus this way, the reason that we do sets of 5 to 8, the reason we only do 1 or 2 sets is I don't focus on getting the pump. I don't focus on getting you swole for that 20 minutes after you leave the gym, right? Yeah, Matt, Choose Fitness is top tier, dude. It's fantastic. I signed up with them in 2018 and I've been a member with them ever since. And as far as I can tell, I'm not leaving them. Um, But the reason I don't focus on getting a pump, the reason I don't do drop sets, the reason I don't do lengthen partials or anything else you're going to see is I none of that really works towards hypertrophy. It really doesn't. It works if you're brand new because without going too much into the science, you've got a couple of different types of muscle fibers. You've got 3 different types primarily, and type 1 can be responsive to those lengthen partials, to those drop sets, to those types of set intensifiers, but those come pretty early on. They come pretty quick, and once they're there, those things don't work anymore. So if you've been doing them and you hit a plateau, that's why. Um, when you focus on heavier weight, fewer reps, right? 5 to 8 reps, 1 to 2 sets, getting close to failure, 0 to 2 reps away from failure. You now focus on motor unit recruitment within the muscle. What's a motor unit? A motor unit is basically, think of it as like a conductor that controls a set number of muscle fibers. And the more of those that you can recruit in a given exercise, the more that you can get to these type 2 fibers that are actually more responsive to growth in the long term. But the only way to get those active is to actually maximally use the muscle because they won't come on by default. You have to really push hard to get them to turn on. And this is how you do it. You go heavy weight. If you go heavy enough weight, you will have no choice but to go few reps. So you don't have to worry about that. Um, Funnily enough, if you do this properly, you also don't have to worry about the pump because that will also too just happen. So you'll still get the pump. It's not that this doesn't get you a pump. It's you're just not focusing on that. You're focusing on something else. Again, I'll dive into this way more in the next. I'm going to commit to you guys in the next couple of weeks. We'll go way deeper into this if you guys want to. If not, we'll just do another topic. It's fine. I don't want to bore you guys with stuff if you don't want to know about it. But if you do, I'm all like I could do this all day. I just watched Avengers today, so I could do this all day. Just call me Captain America. Um, there's also a ripple effect when it comes to hypertrophy training that I really like. There's all these other areas of your non-gym life that get improved by putting on muscle. One, quite frankly, let's just get out of the way. You just look better. Like, you just look better. Katie says hi. What's up, Katie? I haven't seen you or heard from you in ages. Um, you just look better with muscle. You just do. Like, people will try to say that it's not all that matters, and quite frankly, they are right. It's not all that matters. But if we're talking overall benefits of strength training, the extra muscle just looks great. Helps your clothes feel great. It's you can't get around that point. But moving on from that, other things that can help, other areas that helps. You ever see somebody that has that extra muscle on them, that little bit of that kind of extra swagger with the way they walk? They're a little more upright. They typically have better energy overall. They typically have better confidence because if you've had the patience and the determination and the discipline to do what you need to build muscle, that's going to improve how confident you feel about yourself overall, and that will carry with you as you leave the gym, and you can take that to the rest of your life. So it's lots of benefits that you get out of building muscle other than just the way it looks. Two, like we mentioned, it helps with your body's storage of sugar. It can help with your body's production of hormones. It can help with your body's production of neurotransmitters. It can top to bottom help your entire body, just building muscle. So again, if we do a whole episode on that, I'll make sure to include a section on that too. Um, Mikey says he just wants to look better. Well, build muscle. Rolando says he fits in gyms with double doors because he's got a lot of muscle. I've seen him. I've wrestled on shows with him, but never against him. We need to change that. Um, Mikey also says congrats on the title win. Thanks, man. Yeah, just won the tag team titles at Duke City Championship Wrestling. Me and my boy Two Scoops. Um, but yeah, so when you're trying to figure out exercise, right, you can go back, literally just go back, make a note of those 6 exercises, and just go do them. And the cool thing is, I know Planet Fitness has those machines, so even if you have a Planet Fitness membership, you can do them. Which means if you go to choose, I know you can do them because that's where I built the program. If you are in, if you're in New Mexico, you know about Define Fitness. They've got them too. There's a second gym I go to, Westside Power Gym, which is a very niche power style powerlifting gym. They've got all the machines too. Like these are common machines. These are common machines. So any gym that you go to will have some version of these. So take those 6 exercises, write them down, and just go do those. Keep, if you want to, shoot me a message. I'll lay it out cleanly for you for how to structure your reps, your sets, your rest, all that stuff, and you can just go to town, dude. But really, that's how you take all that together, and that's how you build that plan. That's how you build the plan together. So you first realize that it doesn't take a whole lot of time to actually take time for this goal. Just the workouts alone, right? We did the math. We did the hard math. 3 hours a week. 1.8% of your week is would need to be spent in the gym. 1.8%. That's it. 1.8%. Then you figure another hour for making your food, and your shopping basically gets piggybacked off the fact that you were already shopping. It's really not a lot of time. It's really not. Yeah, we by default we just like making excuses for things that are harder because it's easier to just not do them. And that's fine. That's the way we're originally wired, but that doesn't mean that it can't be changed. We just have to want to make the change. That's all. And if you want to make the change, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to listen. I'm not going to judge anything you say. I might call you on some of your bullshit, but it's not from a place of judgment, and it's not from a place of saying you're a bad person for anything that you've chosen to do or not do. But I aim to just bring awareness around the choices that you make and help you if you want to make different choices instead. If you don't, that's 100% cool too. Like, I'm with you either way. If you talk and you're like, you know what? I just want to stay on the couch. I'm for you, dude. Like, let's go. Like, let's go watch Squid Game. I'm down. I will rewatch Squid Game with you. Um, let's go. But yeah, like, you have to realize that it doesn't really take a lot of time. You just have to make that time commitment. You have to take a few seconds, figure out your nutrition, figure out your calories and protein. I just gave you the two easy formulas for that, right? Body weight times 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. Protein is just going to be equivalent to your either body weight or goal weight, depending. And that's it. Just focus on filling those. When Jack comes back, which is probably going to be next week, we'll do an episode where we just talk about how to actually measure, how to track, how to actually work with those numbers. So if you want to get some practice in, figure out those numbers between now and next week, and you can try to play around with it on your own just so you kind of have some experience and maybe run into some questions and bring them back when we come back next week. Um, I might just take the reins and just tell Jack that's what we're doing next week because I think that's a great place to go. Um, but you have to run those numbers and commit to them. Or like you can do keto too. You can do carnivore. That's awesome. Like those are avenues and choices you can make. But you have to ask yourself if you're really willing to long term get rid of pastries and breads and pastas and sodas and juices and all of that. If you are, awesome. Like knock yourself out, go for it. I've done both of them. They're fine. But I just like cereal. I just like cereal. I like pancakes. I love waffles. So I'm not like keto and carnivore are not for me long term. Um, but you have to figure out a way to do it, to do the calorie deficit, and then you have to stick to it. So maybe it's intermittent fasting, all right? 8 hour eating window a day, 16 hours where you don't eat. It's just a shortcut to get into a calorie deficit, but you can easily still overeat on calories in those 8 hours. So you still have to monitor. So wouldn't you just like to know how to monitor, how to track appropriately and effectively so that you know that you're in a calorie deficit? And then third, like you gotta exercise, especially if you're trying to lose fat, you probably want to maintain muscle because that will also save you from hitting any sort of plateaus and that'll help reshape your body as you're on that path. And again, go back up, take those 6 exercises down, shoot me a message if you want to do it. I'll lay out a very clear plan for you and you can just go off to the races. It's a workout you can do at Planet Fitness. It's a workout you can do at Choose, Define, any gym. If you happen to go to a gym and they don't have one of those machines, let me know. I'll find something else for you to do in that exercises place. I've got you. Um, but really like the best plan is going to be the one that you can stick to. So I gave you a bunch of ways and things to think about and realize when it comes to setting up a plan to ultimately show you that it really doesn't take a lot of time, but you just have to make the decision to put the time into it. So if you put the time into it, you're aces. If you don't, you'll just be back here again, January 2026, re-promising to get to your goals and probably about to get to fall off the wagon again. So it's up to you. Either way, again, I'm here to support you either way. Like if you fall off by February, if you fall off by March, like I'm still gonna cheer for you to get back on. If you've decided you just want to completely give up, I'm here to cheer for you for that too. Um, if you do have questions, if you do want help with setting up that plan, if you want help figuring out your macros, your calories, if you want somebody to help you figure out a grocery list, shoot me a message here on Facebook. Shoot me a message, go to Instagram, look up Tony Davis Coaching, find the guy in the middle of a dope swanton bomb picture. That is me. Shoot me a message. I will help you figure out all that stuff in the DMs. We can hop on a call, talk about it there. Whatever you need to be set up for success, I'm here to help you with. In the meantime, I know we had a bunch of people on today. I think this might actually have been the most number of people that I think we've had. So thank you all for coming on and watching. Um, I'll see you next week. If you are watching this in the future, if you're watching just a replay, I appreciate you there as well. I'll catch you next Thursday. I'll have Jack back in tow. we'll be talking about either, really, it's going to be either going into depth about uh, muscle building and strength training. See if I'm going to reach out to some of the people that are in the comments, see if they even care to learn about it. And if there's enough interest, we'll do that. And if not, we'll talk about how to actually use a food scale, how to track your food, how to enter it into uh, food tracking apps, and all that stuff. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. If you're watching live, thanks for watching if you're watching in the future, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.